Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're taking a focused look at a specialty biopharma company, one that's seen, well, some really explosive growth, but also quite a bit of recent stock price volatility. ADMA Biologics. We're going to quickly try and pull out the most important insights from the latest financial reports, analyst commentary, just to get a handle on that critical question for you, the listener.
Yeah, and that core question is pretty straightforward, isn't it? Is ADMA Biologics actually trading at a favorable entry point right now? And, what exactly are the forces behind its accelerating fundamentals? We'll dig into the operational game changers, the technical setup, which looks interesting, and the key catalysts we might see in the next few months.
Absolutely. Our mission here is just to quickly extract those key insights from all the available stuff out there to help inform your perspective. And hey, before we really get into it, if you find this analysis helpful, please take a second to subscribe, like the video, maybe leave a comment below. It really does help us out a lot. Oh, and if there's a specific company you'd like us to analyze in a future show, just drop the name in the comment section. We do read those. Okay, let's start with the core business. What makes ADMA Biologics tick, and why have the fundamentals been, well, accelerating so fast? They're specialists, right? Focused on developing, manufacturing, and selling these plasma-derived biologics.
That's it. These are essential products, mostly for patients with primary immune deficiencies. It's definitely a niche area, but a really critical one for those patients. And what's fascinating, I think, is that this specific field plasma fractionation, it has enormous barriers to entry.
Yeah.
Huge.
You can't just decide to start one of these businesses tomorrow.
No way. You need massive capital, years of really rigorous FDA approvals, specialized manufacturing know-how. It's complex.
And that specialization seems to be translating into quite the growth story lately. The top-line expansion looks really robust. I mean, you look at Q2 2025 revenue, $122.0. The headline year-over-year growth is 14%, which sounds okay, but the adjusted numbers, they tell a different story.
Exactly. That's the key. If you exclude a one-time item from the prior year that kind of skewed the comparison, that year-over-year growth jumps to what? 29%. Pretty impressive.
29%. And wasn't Q1 even higher?
It was, yeah. Q1 2025 adjusted growth hit 40% year-over-year. 40%.
Wow, a 40% adjusted growth rate. That's just staggering for a company in such a regulated, complex sector like specialty biopharma.
It really is. And when you put that pace next to its peers, ADMA Biologics is like among the absolute fastest growing companies in that whole landscape. This kind of explosive sales velocity is, frankly, the main reason analysts started paying much closer attention.
And it's not just growth for growth's sake, right? They're turning sales into actual profit. We're seeing net income over the trailing 12 months, the TTM figure, at $208.93 million. That supports a net profit margin that seems, well, notably high for this industry, suggests good cost control.
Yeah, that margin strength is absolutely critical for the long-term picture. And, when we look at valuation, this is where it gets interesting, maybe a bit disconnected. The trailing 12 months EPS is $0.75. That gives us a current PE ratio of about 18.5.
18.5 PE for a company growing its top line, adjusted at 30–40%?
Exactly. A PE under 20 suggests the market is either deeply discounting that growth or, expecting a major slowdown that maybe isn't justified by the fundamentals yet. The forward PE estimates, they range a bit higher, maybe 16.8 to 21.6, but even those numbers still feel pretty modest given the trajectory they've been on.
Okay, so that kind of sets up the central puzzle here. High growth, seemingly low valuation, specialized market. But growth only matters if the company's stable, right? Let's look at their financial strength, the balance sheet, and what makes them so hard to compete against. Moving into that now.
Right, and we're looking at a pretty well-fortified business here. Their financial health looks undeniably solid. Market cap is sitting around $3.7 billion. But the really crucial metric, I think, showing that internal strength is free cash flow, FCF.
That's the actual cash the business generates after everything's paid for, right? CapEx included.
Precisely. And they are generating positive FCF. Came in at $43.7 million over the last 12 months.
Positive FCF is huge. It means they're basically self-funding their growth, not just relying on more debt or selling more stock. That's a big stability signal in biopharma.
It is. And management seems to agree, judging by some recent pretty aggressive strategic moves. They just completed a syndicated debt refinancing, led by JP Morgan, actually, improved their liquidity, and, importantly, cut their borrowing costs quite a bit.
Lower borrowing costs, definitely good. But they also did a stock buyback, didn't they? About $15 million in common stock just before this recent price drop.
They did.
Doesn't management buying back shares usually signal they think the stock's undervalued? especially relative to the long term, even with near-term bumps.
Absolutely. Management putting its own money, well, the company's money, where its mouth is like that,
Hmm.
it sends a very strong signal of internal confidence. They're basically saying, hey, we think our own stock is the best investment out there right now.
Okay, now let's talk about that competitive advantage, the strategic moat, as they call it. Beyond their core products, Bivigam, Acinov, Nabi-HB, what really protects ADMA Biologics?
Well, I think the real game changer, especially, given everything going on globally today, is their vertical integration. They have a fully U.S.-based supply chain that includes their own plasma collection facilities, their manufacturing centers. They control the whole process, start to finish.
And why is that vertical integration so important, specifically in the plasma business?
It offers, like, unparalleled insulation. Think about it. Global disruptions, supply chain jams, tariffs, international regulatory issues. Companies relying on overseas sources get hit hard. ADMA Biologics operates this closed, U.S.-based loop. That reliability, that security, it adds tremendous strategic value. Some call it the supply chain premium.
Right, and here's where that operational efficiency really seems poised to take off. Tell us about that recent FDA approval, the one that's supposed to really change their margin profile.
Yeah. This is probably the biggest near-term driver for margins we see.
Hmm.
The FDA approved a new yield enhancement process for their manufacturing line. And this isn't just some minor tweak. It delivers over a 20% increase in the finished immunoglobulin, the IG output, per batch.
Over 20%, without a proportional increase in cost.
That's the key, without proportional increases in collection or processing costs.
So a 20% efficiency boost basically flows straight down to gross margins. That's huge. When does that start showing up in the financials?
We expect the impact to become pretty material starting late 2025, specifically in the Q4 2025 reports people will see. This is really the primary fundamental driver analysts are laser focused on for margin and throughput expansion.
And they're building out capacity to handle this new efficiency too, aren't they? Something about acquiring land in Boca Raton.
Yes, exactly. They're expanding their infrastructure, acquired adjacent land, aiming for potentially a 30% expansion in their CGMP manufacturing capacity.
CGMP, that's the current good manufacturing practice, the high-quality regulated production space.
That's the one. So they're boosting efficiency and capacity at the same time. Any operations person will tell you that's the perfect combo, a really powerful engine for driving profitability.
All right, let's pivot then. Segment 3, the market reaction. Despite these, frankly, compelling fundamentals, the stock has pulled back sharply, maybe offering a deep value entry.
That's the paradox we touched on earlier, isn't it? The stock has really fallen hard from its mid-2025 highs. It's trading near its 52-week low, which is around $13.50, way below the high of $25.67. As we're talking, the price is bouncing around, what, $13.99 to $15.61, roughly. So investors are rightly asking, why the big sell-off when the operational news seems so good?
So what are the technical indicators telling us about this pullback? Is it, just panic selling, or is there something more fundamental?
Well, all the indicators really suggest panic selling, or what technicians sometimes call investor capitulation, giving up. The stock is trading significantly below both its 50-day moving average, that's around $17.01, and the really key 200-day moving average at $18.30.
Trading below the 200-day usually signals pretty deep weakness, right?
It does. But crucially, look at the relative strength index, the RSI.
Okay, and the RSI is at 22.16, which means what exactly?
Well, an RSI reading below 30 is generally considered deeply oversold. So at 22.3 cents, that's telling us the selling pressure has been incredibly intense, maybe emotional. Statistically, a reversal, or at least a bounce, becomes highly likely from these levels. It suggests the price is really detached from the underlying fundamentals.
Okay, so investors might be selling out of fear, maybe triggered by something specific, despite the growth story holding up. What are the key technical levels we need to watch now for a potential shift in momentum?
Well, near-term support looks pretty solid in that $13.50 to $15 range. That 52-week low, $13.50, that's kind of the line in the sand. For a real sustained momentum shift, though, we need to see a breakout and, importantly, a close above $18.30. That's that 200-day SMA we mentioned.
And if it breaks above $18.30?
If they can breach that level convincingly, technical analysis suggests a pretty quick recovery toward the $24-25 range is plausible. Even a reversal back up to the $17-22 zone seems likely during Q4 2025, especially if the fundamental news flow stays positive.
Okay, that brings us neatly into segment 4. The catalysts and, of course, the risks. What are the immediate triggers, say, in the next 3 months that could actually confirm that technical reversal?
Yeah, there are really three main triggers to watch. First, the big one, Q3 2025 earnings, expected around November 6th. Analysts are really betting on this report, showing clear proof of that continued growth acceleration.
Makes sense. What's number two?
Second is seeing the realized margin uplift from that new FDA-approved yield enhancement process we talked about. We need to see those benefits actually start flowing through in the Q4 2025 financial reports. That's the proof point.
Right, seeing is believing on that one. And we can't forget the institutional money flows, can we? They often drive price action towards year end.
Exactly right. Third trigger, we've got major ETF rebalancing events coming up, especially in the biotech indexes, usually late Q4. Plus, you have the institutional holding reports, the 13F filings coming out in November and December. These show which big investment firms bought or sold large chunks of stock. Strong institutional buying can definitely trigger renewed interest.
Okay. Now, given all this positive operational news and potential catalysts, what's the analyst consensus? What's the street saying overall?
Well, the consensus is overwhelmingly bullish. We're seeing 3 strong buy ratings versus just 1 hold, and importantly, 0 sell ratings right now.
And price targets.
We average 12-month price targets are actually remarkably high. They're ranging from about $27.67 up to $29.06.
Wow. That implies what, 77 to 86% upside from where the stock is trading right now? Assuming they execute, of course.
Yeah, huge implied upside. That's why the disconnect is so striking.
Okay, that potential upside is massive. But we absolutely have to address the elephant in the room. What is causing this huge gap between strong fundamentals and, well, apparent panic selling? The source material points to a major concern, something about a securities law investigation.
Yes. This is the primary driver of the recent volatility and uncertainty, no doubt. There's an ongoing securities law investigation. It follows delays they had in filing their 10K audit process earlier. And, anytime legal or regulatory scrutiny pops up, regardless of the eventual outcome, it just injects uncertainty. Risk-averse investors tend to sell first, ask questions later. This cloud of uncertainty is really what hammered the RSI down to tum 2.
So that investigation is the main risk factor right now, and until it gets resolved, it's likely going to act as a kind of ceiling on the start price, even if earnings are great.
That's pretty much the trade-off you're looking at. Beyond that, sure, you have the standard execution risks, maybe delays in the production ramp-up, unexpected issues with the new yield process. But that legal uncertainty is definitely the most acute near-term risk factor.
Okay. Looking longer term then, beyond the next quarter or two, what are the sort of macro catalysts that could drive the valuation, say, 5 years from now?
Well, you look at pipeline expansion. They're making continued progress on new therapies, particularly their S-pneumonia candidates. That offers potential future revenue streams, diversification. There's also significant opportunity potentially for global expansion, moving beyond just the U.S. market eventually. And given their specialized niche and that vertically integrated structure we discussed, the possibility of M&A maybe being an attractive takeover target for a larger pharma company, that's always kind of a long-term background possibility too.
So let's try and pull this all together. What does this mean for you, the listener? Let's summarize the final thesis on ADMA Biologics.
Okay. Well, the company seems to exhibit this really powerful combination, right? You've got high growth fundamentals, that 30%, 40% adjusted revenue growth is serious. You've got expanding margins, strong supported by that 20% efficiency boost coming online soon. And you have this deeply oversold technical setup. The analyst consensus is pretty clear. Overall, bullish. It really looks like a quality company that's being momentarily penalized, perhaps overly so, by that regulatory uncertainty.
Which makes the recommended investment horizon kind of flexible then.
Exactly. You could argue it's suitable for short-term trading, trying to capture that anticipated Q4 2025 catalyst recovery, especially if it bounces hard off these oversold levels. But because of the structural advantages that vertical integration, the barriers to entry, it also looks like a solid candidate for a long-term growth investment, leveraging those industry trends and their internal operational efficiency gains.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you to consider as you do your own research on this one. Given the whole geopolitical climate right now, the intense focus everywhere on national supply chain resilience, how much strategic value does a fully vertically integrated, completely U.S.-based plasma supply chain truly add to a biopharma company's valuation? And how do you weigh that strategic moat against the near-term regulatory volatility from that audit investigation?
That's the core trade-off, isn't it? Long-term security versus that short-term risk. Definitely a question worth mulling over.
Absolutely. Remember, this analysis is strictly for educational purposes. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. We'll catch you on the next show.